Beautiful. So, welcome to Purpose and Meaning, Finding Your Why, a masterclass with the beautiful Tess Everingham. Over to you, Tess. Tess, we can't hear you if you're talking.
It definitely is not going to work unless you have a slight technical hiccup at the beginning, which I did, but now I'm okay. Welcome everyone to this workshop and this 1 hour that I hope will be interesting and thought-provoking and positive for all of you. I'm coming to you from Northbridge in Sydney, where the traditional owners of the land of the Cammeraygal people, and I'd like to pay my respects to those people and acknowledge their resilience and capacity, and also pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So we have 60 minutes together. It's not going to be all me talking. I'm going to mix it up a little bit, and hopefully we'll have some discussion going as well. I think this is an incredibly important topic. Certainly in my coaching, a topic that is, a couple of people in the waiting room. Certainly in my coaching, it is a topic that comes up again and again. And what I'm hearing from people, and mostly I do career coaching and leadership coaching, but any coaching I'm doing, I'm hearing people say, I want my life to have more meaning. I want to contribute something that I'm proud of. I want my work to mean more than just making a profit. And I want to live my best life. Now, this really, I think, was accelerated by COVID, which gave many of us the opportunity for a bit of an existential crisis in terms of, I've got time to think, and now I'm thinking, am I living the best life that I really can? I think for me personally, this became really important around my early 50s when I had a major career change. So probably the first time in my life when I really thought consciously about what my career meant for me and what contribution I wanted to make. And so went from a completely different career to what I'm doing now. But also when I hit 60, even more so. And I think what really brought this home for me was a couple of years ago, my mum died. And my mother was a bit of a character and a feisty woman. And those of you with feisty mothers will know that that's often code for she could be very difficult at times. I loved her dearly, but she could be difficult. And she loved her grandchildren and bridge and the Labour Party. And I had to do her eulogy, and that's what I kind of had to work with. Bridge, her grandchildren, the Labour Party. They were the main things. And it was a really interesting time for me because there's nothing, and I'm sure some of you have done eulogies as well, there's nothing like doing a eulogy to make you think about what you want your life to mean as well. So today I want to talk about why purpose is important, and really what is purpose, and how can you find your purpose, whatever that is. And I want you to walk away with some tips and resources. I think also, just setting the scene, I want us to reflect on the fact that sure, you can have purposeful work, and that's great if you do. But whatever work you do, you can make it purposeful by the way that you approach that work and the impact you have on other people. And certainly purpose can come from all aspects of your life. It can come from caring, it can come from volunteering, it can come from doing stuff that you love and that absorbs you. We all have realities and maybe bills to pay or mortgages or whatever that might be. So finding your purpose does not necessarily mean packing it all in and going to found an orphanage in northern Thailand. It can mean smaller steps than that. And indeed, it could be the beginning of a journey. I also think you can have more than one source of purpose in your life. It doesn't have to be just one thing, one all-encompassing thing. I hope that in the next hour, you have a chance to just reflect on this and how important it is for you. I have no doubt that many of you already have purpose in your life. And so I am keen to ask you and for you to think about, so where, if one is, I have no purpose in my life, I have no reason to get up in the morning, I have no meaning in my life, and 10 is, my life is chock-a-block full of purpose, I would love to ask you if you could please put in chat what number you are on that scale. Are you a 1? Are you a 10? Are you somewhere in between? Could everyone just pop a number, please, in chat? Beautiful, Louise. A 6. Faith, 9 to 10. I'd expect no less. Lynn, 4 to 5. Chanel, thank you, a 5. Okay, now I'm going to ask you another question. Thank you. 8, 7, 9 to 10. What already gives you purpose in your life? So could you please either we'll share in chat initially, and then I might call on some of you if you feel comfortable talking. What already gives you a sense of purpose in your life? If you could share that in chat, please. Or if anyone would like to take off their mute and just share, that would be great as well. Thanks, Lynn. Louise, family, work, friends, adventure. Beautiful. And interesting, this theme that's already coming out about relationships. And I do think a key part of purpose is the impact you have on other people. Jody, may I ask if you don't want to talk, please don't worry, but I'd love to know what sort of work you do that gives you purpose.
I work for Silver Sirens.
Oh, beautiful. Of course you do. That Jody. And did you choose Silver Sirens because it was purposeful work, or is that just a kind of a happy byproduct?
A bit of both. Silver Sirens really found me at a time when I was looking for something to a purpose for my life. Beautiful. And yeah, so it's been, I've been here for just over 12 months now, and I love every day.
Yay, I love that. I'm keen to ask if any of the participants volunteer at all, and whether they'd be happy to share their experiences volunteering. Jalinda, do you mind sharing your experiences? Maybe you could go off mute and
Hi everyone.
with us. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I tend to these days, I'm post 60 as well, do more volunteering probably than any paid work. It's always in the space of gender equality. I've been a feminist and an advocate for gender equality my entire life. And so these days I'm on the board of AGEC, Australian Gender Equality Council. And I have a not-for-profit organisation that I head up called Elevate Her of Australia, which is always just about, really pushing forward with that gender equality bit. And now I'm more involved also in the ageism space. So a combination of gender equality and ageism, or gendered ageism, if you like. So anything to do with that, I'm in.
I love that. And you know what I love, and I think people sometimes don't get this about volunteering. I think we can all tell from your tone and your energy that these things mean something to you. And so I would say, yes. And so I would say to everybody, nobody likes a martyr. Like, if you're going to get involved in volunteering, try and find something that matters to you, that gives you energy, and that brings you joy, so that it's a win for you as well as a win for the other people. Would you agree, Jalinda?
Absolutely. I know my energy levels are high when I'm doing that. And some of my other, I'm a leadership coach as well. Some of my other corporate leadership stuff, I'm actually deliberately dropping and not chasing that now, because the energy levels is not the same.
Yeah. And for me also, a great resource here, and I might just, I'm terrible at talking and typing at the same time. If you're not volunteering or you're not enjoying the volunteering that you're doing, a great resource is govolunteer.com.au. I think there's about 13,000 volunteering opportunities on there. Just a great idea for you to start going through that and thinking about what matters to me, what gives me energy, what might I like to get involved in. For me, when my mother died, so I love clothes. I've always loved clothes and putting together outfits. And as I was growing up, it was important to my mum as well. It was something that we had in common. And when I first got my heart broken, she took me out shopping and said, "Darling, when you feel like a loser, you've got to look like a winner." And I enjoy the creativity of putting clothes together. And a few years ago, when she died, as I mentioned, I was going through her apartment and I found a piece of lace, and she had terrible handwriting. It had a note attached to it. She had, anyway, she had some learning difficulties and had awful handwriting, but she wrote, "Dear Tess, this lace came from your grandmother's favorite dress." So I never met my grandmother. She died before I was born. "This lace came from your grandmother's favorite dress. She always said it's important to dress well, even if you're poor." And at that moment, I kind of realized this value around looking good is a generational thing in my family. And a few years ago, I did a styling course for no reason other than I just was curious about it and thought it would be fun. So I bit the bullet and spent some money and went down to Melbourne and did a 5-day styling course. And as is often the way when you follow your curiosity, I then started volunteering for Dress for Success, where I work as a stylist every second Thursday, and love that volunteer work. It just brings so much joy to my life. So really thinking about that, a great thing to do. So apart from the energy and elevation this can give your life, there are tons of reasons health-wise to have a life with more purpose. And one study of 14 years showed that the group of subjects, regardless of age, had a 15% lower risk of death, which I thought was incredible. Many of you will have heard of the world's blue zones, those areas in the world where people live to be over 100 more often than any other country. They include places like Sardinia and Okinawa in Japan. And one of the key things, of course, in those blue zones that where people live to such an old age is this sense of purpose and having a reason to get up in the morning. There are other things as well, like fresh food and activity, but that sense of purpose is incredibly important. It's great for your brain. It improves sleep. And of course, this other element that we all suspect, but maybe find it difficult to reason with, is that having a sense of purpose makes us happy. Many years ago, there was the emergence of positive psychology. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Martin Seligman, who is the father of positive psychology. A very simplistic explanation for that would be that before the emergence of positive psychology, psychologists and mental health professionals would take people that were mentally unwell or unhappy and try to fix them, and they still do. But with the emergence of positive psychology, a new branch of psychology opened up where they looked at this from a different way and said, hey, let's look at people that are happy. Let's examine people that are already happy and are living good, fulfilled, meaningful lives and see what we can learn from those people. And one of the things that Martin Seligman talked about was the 3 types of lives that people can have. There is the pleasant life, a hedonistic life, where you kind of chase the good things. You have the good wine, you have holidays, you have the nice cars. The trouble with a hedonistic life or a pleasant life where you're chasing positive emotions is that as humans, we habituate rapidly. It means we get used to things. If you have chocolate every day, all day, pretty soon you lose the enjoyment that chocolate may have given you. There are ways to get around that. You can practice gratitude, you can savor things, you can share it with other people. That will elongate the feeling a little bit more, but on its own, it's not a very satisfying life. The next level, which is much better, is a good life, a life of engagement. This is where you use your strengths and you get absorbed in things. You go into flow. Time passes. You're using gifts you've been given or things you're naturally good at or skills that you've learnt, and you're absorbed. The third kind of life is a meaningful life. And it kind of relates to that good life, because what you do with a meaningful life and a life with purpose is that you use your strengths, but you use them to benefit someone or something bigger than yourself. And that's what we're really talking about now. The other interesting thing about these three types of lives is that the sum is greater than the parts. So if you just have a pleasant life on its own, not so much life satisfaction, but if you have a meaningful life and you add a pleasant life on top of that, then the sum of that is greater than its parts. So really, you're not just chasing one life. It would be great to chase all of those lives, but not forget this meaningful life. So I would love you to pop in chat someone that you can think of, like maybe a celebrity that we've all heard. Although if you would like, you can talk about a member of your family or a good friend. But perhaps pop in chat somebody that you can think of that you think is purposeful. You can either talk or you can put it in chat. Would anyone like to share? Who is someone that you can think of that you admire for their sense of purpose? Beautiful, Louise, Angelina Jolie, Faith. That's beautiful, Faith. Definitely Faith.
Jolie. Christ, she's a fuck up.
What was that, Alison? Oh, I think, I don't think
Alison, were you meant to be off mute? Did you want to say something,
No,
Alison?
sorry.
You just said, okay,
That's
no problem.
okay.
We'll just put you back to mute.
Louise, how can you tell that Angelina Jolie has purpose, do you think?
Thanks, Tess. Well, look, she's someone who could really, I think, just sit back and enjoy the very pleasant life that she has in terms of money and fame and so on. But she's sort of gone beyond that. And unlike a lot of Hollywood celebrities that sort of talk a lot of talk, she really has despite having 6 children, devoted her time and energy and used her celebrity status for real impact and benefit for children and in crises across the world as a UN ambassador. So she did it before it was trendy, I think, and I really, really admire her for that. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think also with Angelina, you sense that it pervades every part of her life, even in the adoption of her children. Like you feel that this is genuinely kind of who she is. And I think that's something interesting with purpose. Jalinda, how can you tell Ronnie Khan has purpose?
Sorry, you're going to hear a dog barking in the background. I'm minding
right,
my neighbour's dog.
We all love dogs, I'm sure. Go for it.
So Ronnie Khan, I mean, I don't know her terribly well, but I've certainly been watching what she does with that. And I just kind of think, she saw a problem, she saw that what needed to be fixed, and I think she's just fully involved in that. But also she does it with style so that you notice. You were talking before about style. She doesn't hide from it. She's not kind of in the background. She's the forefront of really making it work because she's passionate and energetic about it. So I look at women like that and admire women like that who are really on purpose with the projects and things that they're doing, and they're not afraid to get out there and be the front person, really, pushing it forward.
Beautiful.
The other person I just wrote before was Louise Hayes. I love seeing women who are really purposeful in their later stages of life and really successful in what they do in their later stages of life. So that's probably another one.
Thank you. And speaking of later stages of life, I was just reading for another presentation actually, where I mention people with a strong brand, and I was looking up David Attenborough, who is 98 and still working, still going to jungle, still crawling on the ground, still making documentaries, again, amazing sense of purpose. I saw the other day, and I'm popping it in chat because it's such a great podcast. Hopefully you've already discovered it, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus hosting the podcast Wiser Than Me, where she interviews women that are older than her, and she's about my age. She's sort of 63. Great women like Carol Burnett and Jane Fonda and Billie Jean King she interviewed the other day, an amazing interview that made me watch a documentary on Netflix, not the movie with Emma Stone and Steve Carell, but the documentary on Battle of the Sexes. That was so interesting, and what she did to fight for women in tennis to get equal pay. And tennis is the only sport still, after all of these years, where women are paid the same as men, which is just down to her work and quite incredible. I think of Oprah Winfrey, who to me, I feel has a sense of purpose. She's so consistent. I think of Nelson Mandela, who had a really strong sense of purpose. And I think these people, it's interesting with politicians, because I find it harder to now think of someone with purpose. When I think back to Paul Keating or Gough Whitlam or some of those previous politicians, I don't mean to sound too left-leaning, and there are other right-wing ones as well. They're just the ones that come to mind. But I feel like they had a stronger sense of purpose back then. I think that when someone's on purpose, they have an energy that draws you in. They're doing work that lights them up. They talk with conviction. It is almost like they're pulling on a power bigger than they are, because they're not just doing it for themselves, which I think is interesting. Okay, I want to show you a video from a surprising source, but I think you'll enjoy it. And a great quote there from Emerson.
Now, fear is going to be a player in your life, but you get to decide how much. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it. Please. And if it doesn't happen for you right away, it's only because the universe is so busy fulfilling my order. Parting stars. My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. It's not the only thing he taught me, though. You know, I watched the effect of my father's love and humor and how it altered the world around me. And I thought, that's something to do. That's something worth my time. It wasn't long before I started acting up. You know, people would come over to the house and they'd be greeted by a 7-year-old throwing himself down a large flight of stairs. They would say, "What happened?" And I would say, "I don't know. Let's check the replay." I'd go back to the top of the stairs and come back down in slow motion. It was a very strange household. My father used to brag that I wasn't a ham, I was the whole pig. And he treated my talent as if it was his second chance. When I was about 28, after a decade as a professional comedian, I realized one night in LA that the purpose of my life had always been to free people from concern, just like my dad. And when I realized this, I dubbed my new devotion the Church of Freedom from Concern. The Church of FFC. And I dedicated myself to that ministry. What's yours? How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. As someone who's done what you're about to go and do, I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Because everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart. My choosing to free people, my choosing to free people from concern got me to the top of a mountain. Look where I am. Look what I get to do. Everywhere I go. I'm going to get emotional because when I tap into this, it really is extraordinary to me. I did something that made people present their best selves to me wherever I go.
There sure is a lot of clapping in that video. It is actually part of a slightly longer video that's about 15 minutes. If you Google Jim Carrey commencement address, you will find it. I'm a bit of a fan of these commencement addresses. I have a secret fantasy that someone will tap me on the shoulder one day and say, can you speak to thousands of uni graduates about the lessons that you've learned in your life and what it all means? I think it would be amazing. And I often think about what I would say. Perhaps I should put it in LinkedIn instead. I love how he says, how will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? And I think this is a key part of purpose that I've kind of been alluding to, even when I talked about Martin Seligman, is it's really about using the strengths that you already have. And in order to use the strengths that you already have, Faith, I'm going to ask you a question in a minute, but I'm going to give you warning of what it is before I do, and then I'll go on talking and give you a few seconds. I want to ask you what strengths you have that you think serve you in Silver Sirens or allowed you to build up Silver Sirens, like what it is in you that you were already good at that kind of led you to this. I'll just leave that with you for a second. Everybody else, I want you to think about what strengths you already have. Now, what I know from my coaching is that this is a trick question because people I work with, whether they're going through career transition or whether I'm doing leadership coaching, when I ask them, so what are you good at? People often find it really hard to articulate that. So I'm going to ask all of you to put at least two strengths that you have in chat right now. So what are two things that you think you're good at? Now, you may be a good communicator, but go a little deeper than that. If that's what you're going to say, go a little deeper. I just want I want you to really think about, how am I a good communicator? If you're a problem solver, just think about it. But 2 strengths. Oh, Anna, I love that. You're funny. Oh, I hope you're saying you're funny. It's a private message. Maybe you're saying I'm funny. Louise, empathy and generosity. I love that. Louise, have you used empathy in previous jobs?
Yes, I actually use it in the business that I run now. And it really was something that I felt throughout my career, particularly as I got staff and managed people. I now, in a similar way to you actually, work with women through their careers to really, give them, I really want to be to them what I wished I'd had at the time, in terms of just someone to be in their corner, to get, to hear, to know, understand what they want and to help them get there. So, and I also actually did a total career change, a bit like you, and became a marriage celebrant for about 7 years. So, which was a totally different thing, but it allowed me to, use a lot of the talents I guess I had in my corporate job in a very lovely way. Yeah.
And I have often wanted to be a marriage celebrant as well. So it must be, connected to coaching. But also you have this beautiful voice, which would make you the most amazing marriage celebrant. Kind of interesting, even in terms of some natural traits that we have, how, that strength can be used in ways that perhaps we don't see. Jalinda, speaking passionately to influence change. I love that. And Lynn, I love the insight that you have in saying that you can make other people feel comfortable. And I agree, that is an amazing strength to have, because it allows people to really be themselves with you. You're like a safe place for them. So thank you. Anna, I have faith in the universe. Think outside the box. Beautiful. Compassion, love. Beautiful. You are funny, Anna. Thank you. Building trust and empathy. Thank you, Jody. I've had multiple career paths. I can learn easily. And Monique, that also suggests to me that you're agile. You can work with change. You can duck and weave and respond and make decisions, which again is a great strength, especially now. So Faith, have I given you enough time to think about that question? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for giving me a bit of a heads up and lots of things to think about. And I love the idea that our purpose is a culmination of things we've done, especially at this stage, because we've all done so many different things. So I was thinking about all the things that I've done that's really made Silver Sirens for me. It's such a it's easeful. Like I don't feel like any of it is really hard. It's challenging, but it's not hard. And I ran a fashion agency for 14 years. And in that, I had to put on events, represent people, contact the media, do a lot of marketing, lots of PR. All of those things were part of my world for 14 years. So, all of that, it's skills that I bring into Silver Sirens. Working in the fashion industry, I love, one of my friends said to me, do you have to wear color to come to a Silver Sirens event? She said, when she sees the pictures of the women, everyone just looks so colorful. And I think that's that fashion flavor that I bring into it as well. And I'm insanely anal about detail, and I'm really organized, and it's something that it's just always been there. Very easy for me. And I'm super determined. And when I start on something, I just keep going. I'd say that's my Taurian traits, because I know lots of people that started similar projects at the same time as me. I've got friends who started projects who kind of bailed out after a year because they were like, oh, I'm not really feeling it. But for me, once I start, I just keep going. So I think all of those things have come together to really help me right now in my purpose with Silver Sirens.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you, Faith. And so often when I'm working with people on purpose, it seems kind of serendipitous. serendipitous, but the strands of your life almost kind of come together and it kind of makes sense. And then you go, oh, and I might have the slide later, but Steve Jobs said you can't connect the dots in your life looking forward. You do things and then you look back and then you look at the dots and you go, oh, now it all makes sense. And I find that to be true. So often there'll be some sort of, oh, okay, now it all makes sense. That's why I did the styling course, and that's why I'm working at Dress for Success. Now I see where it's led. I think I don't think it's just me that in my 60s is going through a kind of a reckoning in my life and really looking back at my childhood and what I had to do to survive. And even if you had the best family, you have to act a certain way in order to survive, to get what you need, generally, in big ways and small ways. And in my family, it is probably true that I had to be a bit of a shapeshifter. I had to become what I needed to become in order to be loved in the way I wanted to be loved. And I do think those lessons you learn, they have their dark side, but they have their positive side as well. Like they're a blessing as well as perhaps a curse, just depending on the way that you see them. So that can be interesting with purpose as well. And I think this question around what's the biggest lesson your parents taught you or your caregivers taught you when you were growing up can be really interesting. Ikigai is a Japanese concept, meaning reason for being. And in Japanese culture, this can be a lifelong quest. And I love this diagram that shows what Ikigai is kind of made up of. And for you, what does this mean? It means that you can really consider each of those things and start maybe journaling on each of those things. A great book called The Purpose Project by Carolyn Tate that I would really recommend if you would like to explore this. And Carolyn didn't invent Ikigai, of course, but she did have it in her book and it kind of inspired me. And she had a suggested exercise where you took each of those circles and spent a couple of minutes going, okay, what am I good at? I'm going to write down everything I'm good at. I'm not going to stop for 3 minutes. It doesn't have to just be work stuff. It can be any stuff. What do I love? Write down everything you love. Spend 3 minutes on it. What does the world need? What do I think the world needs? 3 minutes on it. What can I be paid for? 3 minutes on it. And then use a partner and start talking through those circles and get them to reflect back for you and see if they see any themes, because sometimes it can be evident in the energy or what you emphasize, or they can connect some dots that you can't connect. But I really like that exercise, and I think it's been very helpful for a lot of people that I've worked with. So how can you bring more purpose to your life is, I guess, what this comes down to. I'm hoping that I've already planted a few seeds and you've started thinking a little bit about how could I elevate this in my life. We've talked about volunteering a little bit. I'm interested in whether anybody already mentors. And if you do, perhaps you might like to just share with us what that experience is like for you. This one, I'm just asking for someone to volunteer. Faith, yes. And then I think...
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. And then I think it might be Yvonne after that.
Yeah, look, mentoring for me is really, really important. I have 8 mentees and I mentor them in lots of different areas. Some of them are specific around business, some of them are around relationship, but all the others just literally just broader life purpose. And I feel very passionate about what I get from that in exchange, even though yes, I'm giving my time, but I absolutely feel like I get fed and filled up by the exchange. So I feel very grateful for that.
Yay. Thank you, Faith. And Yvonne, I might have just been reading your face, but were you going to say something as well? If not, just ignore me.
No, that's okay. Well, I kind of became an accidental mentor. And in a completely different culture, through friendship. And it kind of starts from recognizing the vulnerability of younger women in Timor-Leste, where I have been traveling for a number of years. And then they would ask me for advice, and I was so conflicted that the cultural differences were immense, but that's where we started. So we talked about that. And I have been very pleased to have helped settle the anxiety and the open up different worlds to a couple of young women in Timor. So when I go back, we check in with each other, and you can actually see the kind of extraordinary already their strengths as women are really coming to the fore now. And if I can just make a value judgment, I mean, the issues in Timor-Leste is a very young independent country. The women there are the backbone. They are extraordinary. They're dealing with a very machismo patriarchal society, and that's a generalization. So yeah, it's given me a great deal of pleasure and also help my own personal development. So it's a two-way thing, a give and take thing.
And how has it helped your own development? I agree with my mentoring, it does as well, but I'm interested in your experience of that, of getting something out of it as well as giving.
Well, you can bring real practical help, but then it reflects back on where you've come from yourself. And it is a true humane and deep connection that you can make, not with everyone, but with key people where all the stars align or are in the right context and things just happen. And when you reflect on it later, it's a kind of, wow, how extraordinary life can be.
Yeah.
When that happens.
Yeah. I agree in my mentoring and even in coaching. Sometimes you have such a strong feeling that you were meant to work with this person, that it was kind of instant that you would come together. And Faith and I both belong to a networking group where you gather in tables, and at some point in the evening you're supposed to tell everyone what you want and what you're there for and how people can help you. And I don't find this awkward because I'm worried about self-promotion, but I often feel as a mentor or a coach, you don't need to sell yourself. People just recognize you. Like they just go, this is my person. Like I want to work with Yvonne. Like I'm drawn to her. I have a sense of her. And in some ways I feel that instinct is the best thing. Thanks for sharing that, Yvonne.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think just the mentoring is a great thing to think about, and it doesn't need to be professional, but it can, and lots of organizations looking for mentors as well. Using your strengths and interests. If you had asked me about purpose a couple of years ago, I would have been hardcore that it's not purpose unless it benefits other people. So your purpose has to have that element of being of benefit to someone more than yourself. gosh, I've really softened my line on that, partly because I've read Martha Beck. And if you don't know Martha Beck, I wouldn't go there unless you're prepared to be a little woo-woo. I like her. She's a life coach. She coached Oprah, but she's pretty out there. I think the book that I read about purposing is The Way of Integrity, Martha Beck. And reading that convinced me that you just need to follow your energy and your curiosity and your interests and trust that the purpose will come. So if you love gardening, garden, lean into gardening, do as much gardening as you want to. That's what your soul needs. And who knows, in the future, that might mean that you start a community garden and you get other people involved in gardening, and you don't need to join the dots in advance. You just need to lean into, if you love singing, sing. So following either your curiosity or your energy or what lights you up, I think is a surefire, great way to be on purpose. And I think we're meant to be happy in this life. So thinking about what makes you happy and doing more of that is a great thing to do. The caring aspect, I don't know if I was right or wrong in this. I said it without thinking. I was coaching a young professional woman, and she was at a career crossroads, and she said her and her partner had decided not to have any children. And without thinking, I said, well, then it's important for you to have a purposeful career. And afterwards, I was like, I mean, she was fine with it, although it did resonate with her. And I don't know if I was right or wrong to say it. It just came out. And maybe I was right to say it to her, but not to other people. I tend to trust my gut. But I guess I feel having kids is a really easy way to get purpose, because you've automatically got someone that's not you that you care about, and that tends to be purposeful, as does caring for other people, looking after your parents, caring for friends. And I guess I do feel like purpose is important. The other thing I'd like to say with caring responsibilities is I think the latest stats for Australia are 1 in 4 people, 1 in 5 people are often lonely, and that figure is, that's accelerating in their lives. So we live in such a disconnected time that if you feel energy around this, I think alleviating people's sense of loneliness and reaching out into your local community and doing things is really needed now. The other thing is, I know I've told you about Go Volunteer, but actually I have a mate, Juliet, who started up in Northbridge, the Northbridge Sustainability Group, where, they started off going around to the cafes and making sure they were doing all the right things. And they got other people to work on the group. They had like a party box where instead of getting all the crap for parties, all that plastic crap, you just donated a gold coin and you could borrow everything for a kid's birthday party. They started doing the same for Halloween costumes. The amount of landfill from Halloween costumes is just horrendous. And so I think you can start doing something in your local community. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be mowing the person's lawn next door. It can be a lot of things. Purposeful work, we kind of talked about a little bit. I will say that I've worked for a lot of people and they're like, I want purposeful work. I want to work for St. Vincent de Paul or Beyond Blue. And sometimes those organisations are not quite what they thought they would be. Like, working for a not-for-profit does not necessarily guarantee it will be purposeful work for you. And there are plenty of commercial organisations that are also doing meaningful, purposeful work. So that's just something to kind of think about. And sometimes I will say to people, what's more important, to work for a not-for-profit or maybe to work for an organisation that's doing things in different ways, that has a culture that is empathetic and future forward and positive? And actually, when they think about it, they're like, oh, yeah, maybe I want to work for an organization that's doing things in a different way. Random acts of kindness. I did a great, I suspect that you may have heard of Coursera.org or edx.org. They're online portals to the universities in the world that are offering free courses. There has never been a better time to live if you like educating yourself. There's a great one on Coursera called, it is called Laurie Santos, The Science of Wellbeing. Laurie Santos, The Science of Wellbeing is a course on Coursera. Laurie Santos is from Yale or Harvard, one of those. It's like a 6-week course. It's for free. They'll try and get you to pay the $75, but you don't have to. But if you do pay the $75, you get the certificate and then you can put it on your LinkedIn. An amazing course that I really enjoyed. And she measured your happiness at the beginning and you measure your happiness at the end. And in between, she challenges you to change one thing that's been proven to make you happier. And the thing that I chose was random acts of kindness. So I upped it. Like every day I deliberately did something kind. You would have loved to have been my friend at that time because I was buying bottles of wine. I was giving people lifts to restaurants. I was going for it. And my happiness increased by 30%. Like it was incredible, the difference that it made. So just thinking about that, find your happy, I feel like I've already said. Faith isn't looking too worried, but you'll be pleased to know that I am wrapping up now, Faith. I know we're coming to the end. I'm a professional. It's only an hour. This is the Steve Jobs quote that I alluded to. Not in some ways an amazing man, in some ways a man with many, many faults. His 2005 Stanford address, commencement address, is amazing as well if you haven't watched it. He talks about how when he was at uni, Steve Jobs was adopted and his birth mother made his adoptive parents promise one thing, and that was that they would give him a college education, and they honoured that promise. But Steve Jobs, being Steve Jobs, dropped out after 1 year and was just couch surfing and attending whatever lectures he wanted to. And of course, one of the lectures he famously attended was on calligraphy, on handwriting. I can't even believe that was a uni course. And he said that years later, when he was developing the Apple Mac and it had all the different fonts, that was one of the things that inspired him, that calligraphy course all of those years ago. So really following your curiosity is a great way to go. So I hope that you have enjoyed today. I hope that it has sparked a few ideas on little steps that you might take to increase purpose in your life. What I know as a coach is that small steps are the way to go. You don't need to have complete clarity. There doesn't need to be a bolt of lightning telling you, yes, this is what I was put on earth to do. It can be small steps, and actually small steps are better, and it will lead you in the right direction. Thank you, Faith, for inviting me to be here today. And thank you, everyone, for your kind attention and participation. I've really enjoyed it. I've been a fan of Silver Sirens from the sideline for quite some time, so it's been an honour. Thanks, Faith.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ted. Let's just close. Maybe we'll stop the sharing so we can just see everybody, and we'll just do a quick, see if anyone's got any closing words. Wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Tess. I really loved, I know this is nothing new, but what jumped out at me was that fear disguised as practicality. How many times have I hidden behind that? Oh, I can't do that, it's not practical. So it's just a nice, gentle reminder. Sometimes with Silver Sirens, if I feel like it's not going as quickly as I want and I want to get practical, I remember it's my fear. So thank you. Fantastic. And anybody else want to add a couple of, we've got a couple of minutes left. Anyone want to add anything or say anything to Tess? You know what, I'm just going to go to, oh, good, go Yvonne.
I noticed the chat option isn't operating at the moment, but those resources that Tess has spoken of, could we get those listed in a follow-up email, Faye?
Yeah, I'll put them in the email that we'll get with our with the recording. So what I might get you to do, lovely Tess, is if you can just send it to me by email so I don't miss any of them. Okay, so the chat works, but it's weird when you try and copy from it, does a weird thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so any questions, and we'll talk about practicality after I stop the recording, just so that the people watching the recording doesn't have to go over that. Jalinda, have you finished? Sorry, Yvonne, are you finished? Is that,
Yes.
was that there? Yeah, fantastic. I'll definitely include it. Jalinda?
I just wanted to say that one of the quotes that came out of that video you showed was, and I wrote down, was the effect, and then I used the word impact, you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. And I think, yeah, that actually is a nice nutshell kind of saying as to why you do what you do. If it's impacting positively on others, then that's, you know, the best currency there is. So thank you. I love that quote.
Beautiful. Thank
It
you.
always reminds
Monique?
me, Jalinda, of that Maya Angelou quote too, you know, that
Yes.
people will forget what you say and what you do, but they'll never forget the way that you made them feel.
Yes. Another favourite. Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, Monique, please jump in.
Yeah, so I was brought up very religiously, church every Sunday. And anyway, then, you know, 20 years later, I went to a Caroline Myss lecture, and that just triggered off the things that she said. And if people don't know Caroline Myss, she's a spiritual leader, triggered off all these things. And I went on this pathway that was all about purpose, but I had to say, I was kind of martyring myself, and I'm just bringing up my 18 years of going to church every Sunday, because it just clicked, dived it back into that really, you know, really easily. And then I had a talk with a life coach, someone who I've just tapped into over the years whenever I've needed to, and he's just like, no, Monique, no. And then that just really liberated me and just changed the pathway to something that was more enjoyable and more passionate for me. So just wanted to share that. Yeah.
And I do, put up your hands if you're saying no more lately. Like, I don't know if it's just me or if it's everyone. I'm saying it's so fabulous. It's like empowering. Like, I got asked out New Year's Eve and I'm like, yeah, no. And I was in bed at like 9:30 with a cup of decaf watching a movie and so happy. Like, I said no to a client. Like, I'm just into it. It's so liberating. I love that you're into it too, Faith.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. I'm going to start to round off, but just a final word. Our theme for next year's Redefining Aging, which we're going to be bringing around the whole country, is on purpose. You know, the need for purpose. And I think as we age, purpose becomes so much more important to us. And a lot of the women that come to me around struggling with aging, it's around I can't find my purpose. I don't know what my purpose is. Once women find their purpose, it's like something clicks into place and they're off and running. So we're going to focus a lot on purpose next year. And certainly, it's purposeful effort equals legacy. You're absolutely right. Because I think, again, as we're aging, we're really conscious about legacy. What are we going to leave behind? So it's a really great topic. So thank you very much for today. I got so much out of it, wrote lots and lots of notes, and I can't wait to watch it again. So just before we finish, I want to just thank you. And thank you everyone else for watching live, and those who are watching the replay later. I will add all the notes you need so you can follow up on Tess. Thank you.